What's up, Ragin Nation? How's it going? This is Alex Yu, and you're watching the TF Movie Show. This is just a web series we're talking about the Transformers live-action movie franchise. This is episode number 65, and I'm sure you're all very excited about the announcement of a new director for the Transformers live-action movie franchise. Transformers 7 will potentially be directed by Steven Caple Jr., who directed Creed 2. And I loved Creed 2, great film, and I'm very excited to see a brand new director and seeing his vision for this franchise. Transformers 7, or rather the 7th installment of the Transformers live-action movie franchise, will be out on June 24th, 2022. So, a year and a half from now, just a little bit over a year and a half from now, and I think that timeline is just about right. Especially once they secure the director, once they've started doing the pre-production, they could start filming in spring or late spring to early summer of 2021 and follow the same timeline that we've always gone with for the other Transformers films. So yeah, that's all very exciting. Now, I want to go back to my web series where I revisit the Transformers live-action movie franchise. We're going to get back to Transformers 7 news once we get more news and developments. But in the meantime, I want to finish up this web series because we got a lot to cover. And I mentioned that I want to go back to how I did my how to improve Revenge of the Fallen. Well, I want to do how to improve Transformers. I want to list a few things that I would do to improve the very, very, very first Transformers film that came out in 2007. Just because I really appreciated the feedback that I got from the How to Improve Revenge of the Fallen, I want to do the same for Transformers. And let's be completely real. As much as everybody enjoyed Transformers and thinks it's the best one, which I still, in my opinion, still think of it as the best Michael Bay directed Transformers film, everybody knows that it could be better. There are a lot of things that, there's a lot of things that they could have done better. That almost goes for any film. But the fact is that there are some things that you would make changes to. And I would do the same thing, but I only want to make subtle changes because like I did with Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, I don't want to restructure the film. I don't want to make a whole new film. I don't want to change the villain. I don't want to change, the way everything played out. I'm fine with that, even though I'm not a big fan of it. I'm fine with that. I just want to change certain elements to just make it a little bit better and more tolerable, okay? With the very first Transformers film, I think it's fantastic. It still gives me a really fun time, nostalgic time as a matter of fact, but there are things that I really, really would love to change that doesn't actually fundamentally change the whole thing. Okay, we're going to start off with Bumblebee versus Barricade. You all know what I'm talking about. Everybody knows that could have been done a lot better. Come on now. Bumblebee versus Barricade was the very, very, very first car chase that we've ever been exposed to in the entire franchise. And what it was very, very, and too short-lived. Come on now. It is too short-lived. And even as a car chase, as a Michael Bay directed car chase, I think it was very lackluster. I think it was very exciting, the fact that they put on that music and then suddenly we get to see Bumblebee and Barricade, going head-to-head with each other. But and everybody cheered about that once I watched it at my screening, but it kind of just was anticlimactic. It wasn't a good car chase scene. It could have been so much better because we've seen Michael Bay directed car chase scenes. I mean, look at The Rock. That was fantastic. Look at Bad Boys 1 and 2. Look at Dark of the Moon. He could do better. And when given the opportunity to have two cars go head to head, I think he gave us something very, very underwhelming. And it truly is. It didn't even have a proper end to it. It had a beginning, not even truly a middle, because there was no real meat to this car chase. It was just a teaser. That's all it was. And then it ended up with them fighting as robots, but when they went to fight as robots, not only could I not see what was going on, because it was just so close up and a big blur, we moved over to the Frenzy fight between Michaela, Sam, and Frenzy. And then once we got back to Bumblebee, Barricade was already on the ground. So, that obviously was not a good introduction to Autobots and Decepticons fighting for the very first time on screen. It wasn't a good introduction at all. We saw some pretty good introductions between Decepticons and humans with Scorponok and Barricade. I wouldn't change anything about that, but I would definitely change the Barricade and Bumblebee meeting. And all I would do is this. It's very simple. Lengthen that car chase and focus the Bumblebee and Barricade fight on Bumblebee and Barricade. You could cut between Bumblebee and Barricade and Frenzy and Sam and Michaela, cut back and forth, maybe not too much so that it's annoying, but at least put the meat of that fight as Bumblebee and Barricade. I don't even care how that fight plays out, but at least make the main focus of that sequence as Bumblebee and Barricade. I mean, it started off with Bumblebee and Barricade in a chase, but then it ends off with Frenzy and Sam and Michaela, and then next thing we know is Barricade is already down. Everybody would agree with this, believe me, okay? Everybody would agree. 100% of you will agree with that, okay? It's something that betters the film. So, that's unfortunate that it played out like that. I still love the film, but it still didn't play out the way we would have wanted it to. Because I thought that sequence was very exciting. The build-up to that sequence was very exciting. The moment when Sam is on his bike and then he flips over and then he sees Barricade and then Barricade is harassing him and then it's just a very scary moment for him. He's running away. Barricade is flipping cars. It's a very exciting sequence, but then it doesn't end in a satisfying way. So you all know that could have been better. Okay, next. This is the last thing. This is the only last thing I would have changed or done better. Excuse me. And that is, and this is so easy. I mean, everybody knows what I'm going to say. Every single one of you guys know what I'm going to say. If I had to change one thing left besides Bumblebee and Barricade, what is the one thing? Who is the other prolific Autobot and Decepticon? Optimus Prime versus Megatron. That's the only thing that needs to be improved because there was no fight between Optimus Prime and Megatron. If there was, I didn't see it. I don't think any of you guys caught it because we were too busy watching Sam run around with the cube. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that, for the very first Transformers film, they decided to not focus on the two most famous Autobot and Decepticon. All right, why was that decision even made? They decided to focus on Sam and the Cube, and which, when you really think about it, and I'm not complaining here, it was all a very exciting sequence, the downtown sequence, but if Ratchet and Ironhide are vehicles, or even Jazz, why wouldn't they drive Sam with the Cube, as opposed to let him run on his own? They could drive Sam and the Cube, while the other Autobots fight off the Decepticons, right? They could have done that. But anyways, I'm fine with the way it played out. What's done is done. It made for some very intense and exciting and dangerous sequences. But what I really have a problem with is the way they handled Optimus Prime and Bumblebee and why we didn't see a proper fight between the two. We ended up getting something extremely amazing with Forest Fight. And I guess that scene alone, not Revenge of the Fallen, but that scene alone was to make up for the first film. But I would have liked for the first film to be perfect, I think it would be perfect had it had that Bumblebee and Barricade fight and chase. It would be perfect if it had Optimus Prime and Megatron really go at it properly the same way they did at the Forest fight. Maybe not to that level because that is like on another level, but it's still to some extent. Because that's what we're waiting for. And all we heard was a bunch of famous lines from Peter Cullen while it was happening in the background and debris was thrown everywhere and while Sam just ducks from that debris. That's all we ended up getting, okay? So that's all I'm asking. I'm not asking for specifics. I'm not going to describe specifics. I'm just going to say that I would love to see a Bumblebee and Barricade proper car chase. I would love to see a Bumblebee and Barricade proper fight. And I would love to see an Optimus Prime and Megatron proper a fight between the two. I don't even mind the fact that Sam killed Megatron with the cube. I don't mind that at all. Okay, I don't have a problem with that. It still feels a little bit anticlimactic and not what I would have wanted creatively, but I would have liked at least Optimus and Megatron to have their battle. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is something that they've been building up for. It's something they didn't give us, okay? Now, these are just very general things that I mentioned. Now I'm going to mention a very specific thing. This is a very, very specific thing that I would change, okay? Or rather add. I'm just going to say I'm going to add to it. And it's not something major. 3 very specific shots, okay? A lot of people have been talking about that Starscream actually contributed to Megatron's death by shooting missiles at him. Well, how do you know that? That's just a theory. I don't buy that. That's just a theory. But I like that theory, but I don't buy it. I like where you're coming from because that's totally G1 because of the power struggle between Starscream and Megatron. But I don't buy that it actually happened. I think what they should do is to give a better hint that it did happen. We don't have to see it happen, but give a subtle hint that it happened. So here's what I want to see, okay? So let's just say that, okay, remember the scene where Megatron is, in the streets. He's getting shot by missiles from F-16s, okay? I just want to see a close-up shot of Starscream, who's already transformed in robot mode, in flight. So imagine that. He's flying around in flight, okay, in robot mode. There's a shot from his perspective of Megatron being shot at by missiles, okay? And then we get a close-up of his face, of Starscream's face, watching him as he gets shot, okay? That shows that Starscream sees it going on, but he's not doing anything about it. And then we could show, and we don't have to have this shot, but I'm just throwing it out there anyways, we could show a shot where Megatron actually looks up at Starscream from his perspective. And then Starscream just going flying away. Now that is how you should end it. Not only have Starscream fly away in a mid-credits scene. Okay, that was cool. That was cool. It made the audience think like, okay, now we're going to see a sequel, and he ran away like he normally does. But I just want that confirmation that Starscream had something to do with Megatron losing. Okay, maybe Megatron could have won, but actually Starscream helped with that. Okay, we don't actually have to see the actual missile, but it would be cool to see Starscream acknowledge the fact that Megatron's being shot and he's flying away, and we're seeing it from Starscream's perspective. That's all. So that's it. That's all I want. I think the film is so close to being what I want it to be, except for those few things. Bumblebee and Barricade, Optimus Prime and Megatron, and Starscream's a betrayal. That's it. I think that's all I need. If they showed all that, oh man, I think that would make for an awesome film. I mean, the movie itself is highly enjoyable, lots of fun, but I think it would be so close to being perfect if they included what I suggested. And there you have it. Like I said before, I'm not trying to change the film in any way, shape, or form. I'm trying to just add a little bit more meat to it so that you feel full. You feel satisfied, like you're being satisfied from a meal. You know what I'm saying? You don't feel 100% satisfied, but I'm just providing you with some dessert. All right? So there you have it. What do you guys think about my additions? Let me know in the comment section below. And then we're going to move on to Dark of the Moon. I'm excited about that. I'm excited to rewatch Dark of the Moon. I'm excited to talk about it. It's a lot of people's favorite Transformers film. And let's move on, okay? As always, if you enjoyed this video, you want to see more, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like me on Facebook, The Ragin Nation. Also follow me on Twitter, Ragin Nation. My name is Alex. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Peace.